Hello, it is Lynx here, and today I will be reading a one-shot entitled Static Hearts in Tight Spaces by an orphan account on AO3. It is rated general audiences and no archive warnings apply. It is My Hero Academia, and it is a Kaminari X Jiro fic, so first one of those, and it is 1,698 words. Before we get into any of it, I would like to preface that this is a gift for my wonderful Nox. We love you, Nox. So please enjoy this. And I'm pretty sure this is before Nox has made art, but I'm fairly sure Nox is making art for this as I'm recording this. So let's get into it. Summary. After a moment, he spoke again. Do you actually hate me? The question hit her like a sucker punch. She blinked, caught off guard, and turned to look at him. His face was tilted slightly away, but she could see the tension in his jaw. The way his fingers fidgeted with the hem of his sleeve. What? She asked, more sharply than she intended. I mean, you used to make fun of me a lot, he said, still not looking at her. Like, a lot. And I know I was kind of a dumbass back then. Okay, I'm still kind of a dumbass. But sometimes I wonder if you ever actually liked me, or if I was just the class clown, easy to laugh at. Kyoko stared at him, her throat tightening. She wanted to say something, anything, but the words tangled up in her chest like wires in a broken amp. She hadn't expected this, not from him, not now. I didn't hate you, she said, finally, her voice low. I just didn't know how to deal with you. Or, Jiro, Kyoko, and Kaminari Denki get trapped in a cramped space during a villain attack, and it gives them time to talk. The air was thick with dust and tension, the kind that clung to your skin and made every breath feel like a gamble. Jiro Kyoko pressed her back against the cold metal wall of the maintenance shaft, her heartbeat thudding in her ears louder than any villain's footsteps. The space was barely wide enough for one person, let alone two, and yet here she was, knees awkwardly brushing against Kaminari Denki's, his shoulder warm against hers, his breath annoyingly steady for someone who should be panicking. She didn't know how they'd ended up here exactly. One minute they were scouting the abandoned training facility for the joint exercise, and the next the alarms were blaring and a real villain, not a teacher in disguise, was tearing through the halls like a wrecking ball. They ducked into the first crawl space they could find, and now they were stuck, waiting for the all clear or for backup or for something, anything that didn't involve Denki whispering dumb jokes under his breath to lighten the mood. Kyoko exhaled slowly, trying to focus on the rhythmic thrum of her heartbeat instead of the way Denki's thigh kept twitching against hers. She could feel the static in the air, the faint buzz of his quirk barely restrained. It wasn't dangerous, not really, but it was distracting. Everything about him was distracting. You know, he whispered, voice low and conspiratorial, if we die in here, I just want you to know I totally forgive you for calling me a walking fire hazard that one time. She rolled her eyes, but the corner of her mouth twitched. That was 3 weeks ago. You short-circuited the microwave trying to reheat a metal bento box. Details, he said, grinning in the dark. You still remember. That's gotta mean something. It means you're an idiot. He chuckled, and the sound echoed softly in the narrow space. Kyoko hated how warm it made her feel. Silence settled between them again, heavier this time. She shifted, trying to ease the cramp forming in her leg, and accidentally bumped his knee harder than she meant to. He didn't flinch, just kept staring ahead, his expression unreadable in the dim light filtering through the vent slats. After a moment, he spoke again, quieter this time. Do you actually hate me? The question hit her like a sucker punch. She blinked, caught off guard, and turned to look at him. His face was tilted slightly away, but she could see the tension in his jaw, the way his fingers fidgeted with the hem of his sleeve. What? She asked, more sharply than she intended. I mean, you used to make fun of me a lot, he said, still not looking at her. Like, a lot. And I know I was kind of a dumbass back then. Okay, I'm still kind of a dumbass, but sometimes I wonder if you ever actually liked me. Or if I was just the class clown, easy to laugh at. Kyoko stared at him, her throat tightening. She wanted to say something, anything, but the words tangled up in her chest like wires in a broken amp. She hadn't expected this, not from him, not now. I didn't hate you, she said, finally, and her voice low. I just didn't know how to deal with you. He turned to her then, eyes wide and searching. Deal with me? You were loud and flirty, and you hung out with Minetta, which was a red flag all on its own, she said, trying to inject some levity into her voice, but it came out brittle. And I thought you were just another guy who didn't take anything seriously. Denki winced, but nodded. Fair. But then I started noticing stuff, she continued, her voice softening, like how you always made sure everyone felt included, how you'd crack jokes when things got tough, even if it made you look stupid, how you trained harder than anyone gave you credit for, and I realized you weren't just some dumb flirt, you were actually kind of amazing. The silence that followed was deafening. Kyoka's heart pounded in her chest, and she could feel the heat rising to her cheeks. She hated this, being vulnerable, being exposed, but she owed him this much, maybe more. Denki blinked at her, stunned. Then slowly, a smile spread across his face. Wow, that's probably the nicest thing anyone's ever said to me. Don't get used to it, she muttered, looking away. He laughed, and the sound was so bright, so genuine. It made something in her chest ache. Without thinking, she leaned forward and pressed a quick kiss to his lips. It was soft, hesitant, barely more than just a brush of skin, but it was real. And then, ow, did you just shock me? Denki recoiled, eyes wide with horror. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. You surprised me. Can we try again? Kyoka glared at him, rubbing her lips. No, you lost your chance. Oh, come on, please. She turned away, arms crossed, but her ears were burning and her heart was doing somersaults. She could feel his gaze on her, hopeful and sheepish and so very Denki. And despite herself, she smiled. Maybe she'd let him try again later. Maybe. Kaminari Denki had never been more aware of his own heartbeat. It was pounding so hard he swore Kyoka could hear it, even in the silence that followed her sharp refusal. He wanted to laugh it off, to make another joke, but the sting of her lips against his, followed by the sting of his quirk sparking at the worst possible moment, was still fresh. He hadn't meant to shock her. He hadn't meant to ruin what was probably the most important kiss of his life. And yet here he was, sitting in the cramped crawl space with his hands fidgeting uselessly in his lap, trying not to look like the world's biggest idiot. When the sounds of boots thundered past the vent, Denki instinctively held his breath. He glanced at Kyoka, who was already tense and alert, her earjacks twitching slightly as she listened for danger. He admired her in that moment, how sharp she was, how focused, how she always seemed to know what to do. He wished he could be like that. Instead, he was the guy who accidentally electrocuted his crush during their first kiss. Smooth. The villain's footsteps faded, and Denki let out a shaky exhale. Relief washed over him, but it was quickly replaced by the gnawing ache in his chest. He wanted to say something, to fix the awkwardness, but every word that came to mind sounded wrong. He didn't want to push her, not when she'd already admitted more than he ever expected. She'd called him amazing. Amazing. The word replayed in his head like a broken record, and he couldn't stop the smile tugging at his lips. Even if she said it begrudgingly, even if she'd immediately tried to downplay it, it was still one of the nicest things anyone had ever said to him. When backup finally arrived, Yairozu's voice calling through the halls, followed by the heavy clang of Todoroki's ice sealing off the villain's escape, Denki felt his whole body sag with relief. He crawled out of the shaft behind Kyoka, stretching his cramped legs and blinking against the sudden brightness of the corridor. His muscles ached, his nerves were fried, but he was alive. They were alive, and that was enough. Except it wasn't. Not really. As they regrouped with the others, Denki kept stealing glances at Kyoka. She was brushing dust off her uniform, her expression carefully neutral. But he could see the faint blush on her cheeks. He wanted to reach out for her hand again, like he had in the crawl space. But he hesitated. What if she pulled away? What if she regretted everything she'd said? What if the kiss had been a mistake? He was still debating when she suddenly looked at him. Their eyes met, and for a moment the noise of the hallway faded. She didn't say anything, but her lips curved into the smallest, most reluctant smile. It was enough to make his chest feel like it was glowing. Later, when the villain was secured and the adrenaline had worn off, Denki found himself sitting on the steps outside the facility, the cool night air brushing against his skin. He was exhausted, but his mind wouldn't stop replaying the crawl space, the kiss, the shock, the way she'd smiled at him afterward. He was so lost in thought that he didn't notice Kyoka until she sat down behind him, her shoulder brushing his. "You're quiet," she said, her tone casual but her eyes soft. Denki shrugged, trying to play it cool. "Just thinking." "Dangerous," she teased, but there was no bite in her voice. He laughed, rubbing the back of his neck. I'm sorry about earlier. I didn't mean to zap you. I swear it was just reflex. I know, she said, surprising him with how quickly she dismissed it. You're still an idiot, though. Yeah, but I'm your idiot, right? The words slipped out before he could stop them, and his heart lurched in panic. Too much, too fast. He braced himself for her to roll her eyes, to shove him away, to tell him he was reading too much into things. Instead, she looked at him for a long moment, her expression unreadable. Then slowly she reached out and took his hand. Her fingers were cool against his, but her grip was firm, steady. Tenki froze, staring at their joined hands, his brain short-circuiting in the best possible way. Don't push your luck-jamming way, she murmured, but her lips curved into the same reluctant smile. Denki grinned so wide it hurt. He wanted to shout, to dance, to light up the whole sky with how happy he felt. But he forced himself to stay still, to savor the quiet moment. For once, he didn't need to make a joke. For once, he didn't need to hide behind humor. She liked him. She actually liked him. All right, so that was the fic. That was so cute. That was actually my first read through. I just picked one that looked good, sent it to Nox, asked if they liked it, and she said yeah. So that's fun, isn't it? It was so cute. Oh, so cute. Sorry, I got that from Nox. Nox kept saying it on call with me the other day, and then I kept saying it. Oops. It's like how I say squeak squeak now. But remember to eat, sleep, drink your water, and take your meds. And when you sleep, go to bed at a reasonable time. And you guys can't clown on me because it's just past 6. Woo. I love that. Nox, since you're having me podfic this specifically for you, know that I love you. You are such a great Nox and wife. Yes, you heard that right. Nox is my wife. Anyways, remember kids, be do and crime gay.